Welcome. Breathing with a story. Right from the beginning, I'd like you to find your breath again and see if it doesn't make some sense to you to breathe in the story that I tell you. Breathing in the words, breathing out the letting go of whatever is no longer needed. First story is hardly a story, but it's about Dr. Pavlov and his dog. Dr. Pavlov did an experiment in which he would give his dog a bowl of food, ring a bell each day, over and over. Bowl of food, ring a bell. And it was just about a week later that he could simply ring the bell and the dog would salivate. This is classic conditioning. And it might be operant conditioning. In any case, it's the notion that we are creatures of associations. And this doesn't work just with dogs. It works with human beings as well. So there is this way of associating breath, a particular way of being here in awareness, with a certain kind of intentionality, certain kind of attitude, and over again, pairing these conditions of awareness with breath, such that at other times we can simply breathe the breath of awareness and find all the associations of our awareness training work to kick in. To be just a little bit more in a mode of being in that place where we take that breath. To be able to make a pause from our doing and bring some of the attitudes of awareness, appreciation, non-judgment, patience. Some of the things we'll be cultivating as we train this thing we call awareness. And this can be done in listening to stories with breath. Here is a favorite story with a title that is suggestive of something. The World I Want to Live In by Naomi Shihab Nye, a somewhat famous Palestinian poet, Palestinian American. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning my flight had been delayed for 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. Breathe. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing loudly. "Help! Talk to her," the flight service person. "What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late and she did this." I stopped to put my arm around the woman and spoke to her haltingly. "Shadawa, Shabdavik, Hibiti, Stanshre, Midfadrik, Shabitsui." My Arabic isn't very good. The minute she heard any word she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. We'll get there. Just later. Who's picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and would ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other son, just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know, let them chat with her? This all took up about 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling about her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, out of her bag, was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It's like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free beverages from huge coolers. 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving us all apple juice, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing, green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant, always stay rooted to somewhere. To breath. I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in. A shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women, too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. Nice story that speaks to our longing for connections. Feelings to know about ourselves that are there all the time. We simply breathe and know this. No need to change anything. Notice how our minds might react to this kind of story. Not so much powdered sugar in my life, Dr. Brown. But sometimes there is. Favorite story of mine is about a man who was imprisoned as a young man after an act of violent protest against apartheid. He was imprisoned and given the job of taking hammers to big rocks to make them into smaller rocks all day long. Hard labor. And the years that he spent doing this, 27 years, and then released to become the new father of his country. The story of Nelson Mandela. And it's a story arc that starts in hard places of prison. Story arc in that first story, too, of tears and wailing. And in the case of Nelson Mandela, a long arc to get to this resolution place of being freed, being able to find that in that long servitude, his soul had been shaped, made ready for this work of bringing reconciliation. We are all in the midst of a bunch of story arcs, some of which have happy endings, some of which don't, as far as we know. They seem to end in brokenness. One of my story arcs is as a physician at the VA, in which, for one reason and another, the place became toxic for me. Ever-increasing numbers of patients added to my list of patients to work with. At one point, seeing more than 700 people one year. That's a lot of people to see. A lot of souls to take care of. And it was too much. It was having palpitations. My health was deteriorating. I needed to get out of there. I left. Came to private practice. And had a chance to meet all of you folks. It was hard leaving my veteran patients, leaving my colleagues there. It was a painful story arc that led to some bright silver linings of getting to do a different kind of work with another group of precious souls. A colleague of mine at the VA, Dr. Charlotte Jenny, also did wonderful work with hundreds of veterans until her breast cancer recurred and she died. One of the voices of courage to help me leave the VA was Charlotte inviting all of us to consider, don't give your life to this place. The story arc for her didn't seem to come to a happy place of powdered sugar. But certainly the beauty of her life for me has been powdered sugar. Just breathe.